Soil is the mixture of rock and organic material at Earth's surface. It supports rooted plants, so it is vitally important for our farming. One of the most important parts of soil is humus, H-U-M-U-S. It's the organic layer of soil, typically close to the top, formed from the decaying plants and animals. This is what provides the majority of the nutrients for farming and growing of green things. There are two general types of soil, residual or transported. Residual, think of the word residue. It's soil that matches the bedrock it sits on top of because it formed from that bedrock. So it's the residue, it's broken down bedrock. Transported soil does not match what it sits on top of because it was brought here by an agent of erosion. Somewhere else there was some rock that broke down and then the bits of rock were deposited here. A soil profile is the side view of the layers of soil because soil does tend to form in layers. And this is a typical ideal soil profile. O at the top, and then A, B, C, and D horizon, which is also called bedrock. The top horizon is the O horizon, and it's what farmers really want and gardeners. It's the top organic layer of soil made mostly of leaf matter and humus. Beneath that is the A horizon, the topsoil, gray to black, organic rich, clay-poor soil with plant material. Plant roots grow here. It's also vitally important to farmers. The B horizon is the subsoil, primarily clay. And beneath that is the C horizon. I think of C for chunky. That's where all the pebbles are. And finally at the bottom, the D horizon, which is unweathered rock, also what we call bedrock. Typical what happens at the surface, you've got erosion and deposition and a lot of weathering because, of course, that's where most weathering agents are, wind, rain. Beneath that is the clays and oxides. Beneath that are chemical and mechanical weathering of the bedrock, and at the bottom, exfoliation of bedrock. These are different types of profiles you get in different areas. Forest soils, because there's so much greenery, have lots of A, lots of topsoil, less of the others. Prairie, grasslands, a whole lot of A, and then less of the B and C. Desert soils tend to have very thin soil. It doesn't make for good farming. Tropical soils also not so great for farming because notice the topsoil is very thin. This is the major problem in tropical areas. They cut down the tropical rainforests that hold the soil in place, and they only get one good year of farming at it. So, because beneath it is just clay, and nothing grows in clay. So, one rainy season will wash away the little topsoil there is, and the next year they have to get a new area, usually by cutting down the rainforest. Development through time is very, very slow. Look at the years, 0, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 years. First step to develop soil is unaltered bedrock. First, unaltered bedrock, so you should write that down. Next step, the bedrock starts weathering into a C horizon. We start to get pebbles form. And that takes, if you notice, a couple hundred years. A few hundred years later, we start the A and O horizons forming because the plants were able to get some roots in where it was pebbles, and they start dying and leaving organic surface. Thousands of years later, the B horizon, the clay, develops. So it takes almost 10,000 years to develop a good soil, which is why farmers must take such close care of it. Here in Loudoun County, we are closest to this soil profile. It's a very thin soil, in part because it's been farmed so much, and so much of the area, the B horizon, has been stripped away. Here's a quick image to show it to you more animated. Here we've got solid bedrock. Slowly, the C horizon develops. It starts to break into chunky pieces. Over time, vegetation moves in the chunky and starts to develop an organic layer. More and more time, the soil, as you notice, is getting deeper, and the surface is starting to break down a little bit more, get more A and O horizon and a bit of B, until further in time we get a fully developed topsoil. This is the Loudon soil I was telling you about. We've got an A horizon developing at the top, a very chunky C horizon, and beneath that is the bedrock underground. This is from a rock cutting near Dulles Toll Road. We have several problems with soil, lack of soil. First is soil depletion. When the soil becomes so depleted in nutrients because of over-farming, it can no longer support crops. This is from the Grain Basket of America. You can see some brown areas that are not producing the nice green crops that around them are. That's because all the nutrients have been sucked out of the soil here. These areas now have to add special fertilizers because they've been over-farmed. The nutrients have been depleted. Next we have salinization. Ironically enough, if you keep adding water to soil over and over and over, the fine dissolved salt that is in all water starts to build up. And then you get this, that's what this white crust is. In Central California, they literally start to get white crusts of salt forming. And salt kills any life. No plants can grow on salty dirt. It will destroy the land. In fact, armies in the past have been known to salt the fields they were traveling over. If they were invading somebody else's land and they weren't planning on taking it over for themselves, but just to punish the local people, they would salt the fields because it would starve them out. They'd be completely unable to grow any food. Finally, we've got desertification. That's what it looks like. It's making more desert. Drought, which is natural or overuse of the land, turns it into a desert. The vegetation's removed, and it becomes harder and harder for that A and O horizon to stay put. It blows away, and all you're left with is stuff that cannot grow. This is an old map. Shows here was the original Sahara Desert, for instance, in northern Africa. Since then, it has grown to cover these gray portions and the black portions, because the deserts are expanding because of overuse of the land. How do we protect it? 3 major ways. Plant windbreaks of trees around fields. These help slow down the wind and thus slow down erosion. Contour farming, or terracing, helps to prevent the soil from washing away. Or strip cropping, alternating rows of tall and short plants. The major key is not to over-irrigate, overwater, or overcrop the soil. You protect the vegetation that protects the soil. These are images of strip cropping. You alternate, in this case, corn with soybeans, soybeans, in these rather pretty looking rows. Soybeans add nutrients to the soil, whereas corn, kind of a nasty crop, it sucks everything out of the soil. So next year they will alternate the two, and thus keep the soil nutrient rich for future years. This here is also a windbreak designed to slow down the wind. Contour farming looking like this. Kind of looks like contour lines on a map. Circles within circles show a hill. Because if you look, the water flowing down this hill would then be stopped at each new layer, and then that slows down the water, thus reducing the amount of erosion. Slower movement, less erosion. So keeps the water from blowing the soil away.